Welcome back, guys. Another episode of the Hawk Vision Podcast. I am your host, Chuck Hawkins, here to help you shorten the learning curve on your way to greatness. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe across all of your social media platforms, especially here at YouTube. More importantly, share this podcast with other visionaries just like you. Something new here. You guys know how much I love coffee. And now if you like to support the show, you can take a look at the show notes and buy your favorite podcast host a cup of coffee. As always, I cannot thank you enough for all the DMs, comments, and messages. We absolutely cannot grow this show without you. Our guest today is someone that I have personally known for a little over 15 years, guys. And while she's been nothing less than an absolute phenomenon as a professional speaker, an entrepreneur, business builder, and perhaps most importantly, a spiritual counselor and life strategist, she joins us today as a future best-selling author. Her new book, Wired Shut, is a personal story of domestic violence, her strength to not only endure and overcome, but also the path to deliverance and the role that her faith played in the process. She is someone that I absolutely love. I do not play about, and I have the utmost respect for her because she is truly a phenomenal woman that is both anointed and powerful. I am so grateful to call her a friend, the incomparable worldwide success story, Miss Andrea Haynes. Welcome to the show.
I am super excited to be here. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I almost thought, like, who is he talking about? Is he talking about me?
Stop. You know your group. We learned edification from the
Oh
group.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that intro had to be right. I stayed up working on that when I was like, listen.
Knocked it out the park. Thank you for having me. I mean, it's such a pleasure to be here on the other side here today. So right. I am just excited about all that is going to come out of this Zoom. So let's get it started.
Let's jump right in. I absolutely love the phrase from victim to victor. Can you tell me what the process looks like mentally? I mean, physically we all heal, but what does the process look like mentally to go through what you've gone
mentally through? Mentally, when you start out on that journey, it's chaotic. Yeah. It's very dark. It's a very lonely, depressed state. And that process of getting yourself back up, dusting yourself off to cross that victory line, because once you get up, I mean, half of the battle is already won, right? Because you chose to get back up. And I think that is one of the most important things I want everybody to remember, that just because you're down today doesn't mean that you can't get back up that same day.
Right.
Even though you got a process to go through, it is possible for you to get back up and do it all, and do better because you've learned from what happened to get you to that place and point.
Absolutely. And we know you have an incredible support system, right?
Absolutely.
And we won't go into all that detail just yet, but in the middle of going through domestic violence, right? And I'm reading the book and it flows so smoothly. I told you earlier, like I'm like yelling at the book like the old people in the movies. But in the middle of it, how was it to process, okay, this is actually happening to me? Like not somebody I know, not one of my friends, this is happening to me.
Chuck, you know what? To be completely honest with you, I think I was in denial for a long time. There are warning signs before it escalated to, obviously what it did. And, we'll get into that, I'm sure, later on in the call, in the interview. But I didn't realize that I was in a situation because I thought I had it under control.
Wow.
There are red flags. It doesn't start with you being physically assaulted. It starts with words, or it starts with, just a push or a shove. So in that moment, I thought that was as far as it was going to go, and that really I could handle it. I'm not going to stay, because nobody just wakes up and says, I'm going to allow somebody to abuse me. Right. None of us do that. And so for me, it was just hard acknowledging the fact that I am in this situation. So for a long time, I denied it until, one bruise too many. And obviously you can't deny that.
Right.
So it was very tough for me to own that and admit that, because I was a person who I'm the person who gives all the advice to my friends. I'm the
Yes.
person who, I'm a leader at work. I'm in an upper management position. So this is not supposed to be happening to me. So how can I, this, bigger than life, for lack of better words, person, be experiencing this behind closed doors? But I think that's a lot of women's story.
So I totally understand that part. But so again, part of me is partial because we go way back, right? But
yeah,
to know that you've been on stage literally in front of millions all over the world, like, and we're not exaggerating, and you've had this story for so long, why now? What made you want to write the book now and share this story and be this vulnerable in front of the masses?
I think that number one, it was not my idea. Let me be honest about that.
Okay.
It was definitely not my idea, because obviously you have to be very vulnerable. And this is not a situation that anyone wants to admit, even
Right.
though I've come out of it.
Right.
It's kind of one of those things that you just bury because you made it out. Now it's time to get over and move on. And initially, that's what I did. After I got out of the situation, after I healed, began to go through that process, I remarried. I thought that was the end of it. That was as far as that story was going to go with those that were close to me and who were there at the time, experienced it. But then God began to share with me that he wanted me to share my story with others in written form. Yeah. And initially I did not do it. It took me several years to begin the process of even the thought of writing the book. Why now? I think the pandemic, and in my work with what I do a lot of coaching and counseling, obviously.
Right.
And in that process, I realized that I was in encountering more and more of women who just kind of like on the same path I was, not necessarily escalating to domestic abuse, but just low self-worth. Yes. And I felt it was my job to be able to encourage and empower them. And then it dawned on me, okay, I'm going to have to be vulnerable in order to do that, in order to be relatable. Right. And so I started working on the book, and I realized that in the process of working on that book, I realized it brought out some more things in me that I had forgotten about during that time, but I was encountering with those that I was coaching. So I said, okay, now I see why, God, you want me to write this book. Because at first I thought, this is a story, but I mean, I'm not the only person that this has ever happened to. Right. So what's special about my story is what my communication, I'm just being honest with God, was. What's special about this story, Lord? And then he began to show me some different things as I began to write what made it unique and what made it special. So in the time that we're in now, the climate that we're in with the pandemic and mental wellness is so important, it all just started to flow. And for me, I said, this is the time. Wow. This is time, because what I realized was that during this time, when the world was on lockdown, there were some people at home that had to be at home, that really work was an escape for them.
Yes,
they could
absolutely.
No longer escape. And I really wanted to release it then, but it wasn't ready at that time to release it at that time, to let them know that help is available. Wow. And you don't have to continue to suffer in silence.
We talk a lot about with the various entrepreneurs and thought leaders that have come on the show, we talk a lot about imposter syndrome, right? As part of the process of going from one level to the next in terms of your professional career. Was it harder to actually write the book, or was it harder to relive some of the instances that we will talk about in a second?
It was harder to write the book.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, but why though? I think, I have you in such high esteem that I would think that if Andrea Haynes can think it, she can do it. It's done. And because
this is the thing. I don't think people realize this, because you have a lot of people who want to become authors. Okay. Number one, yes. I just shared that with you. That wasn't a desire of mine. Okay. Right. It was not. I'm just honest. It was not a desire of mine. The second thing that comes along with that is that when you put things in writing, or if you share something on the internet, it never goes away, right? Right. It's there for a lifetime. So this is a part of my life that wasn't a happy part of my life that will now be out there for the world to see, to critique, to judge, and it will be here for my great grandkids. Right. So it was a huge task that I was asked to do. And I'm not a writer. I didn't choose to be this author. So you're asking me to be vulnerable and share not only about this particular incident, but how my life just evolved. You read it. I got to go back to my childhood. So obviously that's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. On page 73, you start to detail the moment when your husband kidnaps you out of the driveway on the way to a hair appointment. And you end up covering for him, like up to page, I don't want to give away too much, but like 78, you're still covering for him. And then you finally have the gun in your hand and it jams. Like you have a chance to end it all and get your, I don't want to say vengeance, but that's me, vengeance, right? You have a chance to get
that's what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah. Talk to me about that moment. What did it feel like to not only have the gun in your hand, but then to, as you look back, the bullets never released, never connected?
Oh my God, let's talk about in the moment, okay? And then we'll go to looking at where I am now. In that moment, I want people to understand that obviously mentally and emotionally, I was not well. Yeah. Although I was functioning and I was going to work every day, I was doing my best to keep a smile on my face. No one, kind of knew really the extent of what was going on. They knew I was having some issues in my marriage, but not to the extent that they were. Yes. And so I was just surviving. Every day was just get up and just try to make it through the day. Right. So when that incident occurred, all I could think about was, I'm tired. I'm ready for this to end. And if this is my way of ending it, I take my chances on a jail sentence than to live the rest of my life like I was living it, because I wasn't living.
Wow.
I was just breathing. So when it happened, I just knew, the look on his face when I turned that gun on him was priceless. Okay. So for me, it was like, I don't know, it's not a pretty thing to say, right, or a noble thing to say, but in that moment,
it felt good.
It felt so good. I felt empowered. I felt like I am in control. I got you right where I want you. But guess what? I'm going to finish this. I'm not going to back down from this. I'm going to finish it. And I attempted to finish it. Wow. If the gun had gone off, I would have emptied it, no doubt. Wow. There was no doubt I would have, because I had had enough. And the fact that it was jamming and it wouldn't go off, it was so frustrating for me.
Yes.
It was so frustrating. But looking back, I can see the hand of God on my life, because although in that moment, I felt like I could survive jail, I felt like everything would have been okay. It would have meant that I would have been away from my kids. I don't know how they would have grown up, but obviously with not the influence of their mom. I don't know how that in itself would have traumatized them. So looking back, I am glad that God spared me that ordeal to have to go through, or, and to have to explain to a judge, well, what was going on? Well, you never filed a police report. So to the person, it would have looked like I didn't exhaust all of my options before I decided to take someone's life.
Right.
So I'm just thankful to God that it didn't happen the way that I wanted in that moment. Yeah. I'm just grateful.
It was weird to me when I was reading the book, the way that you're able to jump around it. That's what makes it feel like a movie to me, because you were able to get the gun, you were able to wrestle it away, turn it on him. Nobody comes outside of the dealership. Right. No. Like, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, you guys see this woman needs help. Like, I'm trying to jump into the book and and I'm trying to help. But the part that bothered me the most had to be the psychological part of it, where the friend calls and says, they only saw you with the gun though. They only saw you doing XYZ. And even for it to be every married couple has mutual friends, but they're really somebody else's friend, right? You know what I mean? And that moment, I was like, he need to get it too. Like I just, I am so, you know how I am with you and Ed. I am so protective. But I just, in the moment, I love the way that the story is being able to be told from so many different angles, even though it's from your lens.
Yeah,
How did you guys do that? How did you do that when you were putting it together?
because because when I started writing, that's exactly what the instructions that I was given to paint the picture, tell the story, and tell the story where the people feel like they are part of the story. And so when I was talking, with the editor, and she understood my vision of what I wanted to happen, and the way that I was explaining it to her, she said, I want you to write it just like that. So
Right.
it was almost as if I got back into the moment, and I told it and I wrote it as if I was talking to my best friend.
Wow. Wow. You are one of the people that I look at and I know that God's real, right? And we know I'm not the most religious person, but there's not a scar on the face. There's
No,
not
no,
anything this and when people read this book, there should absolutely be at least one good scar, right? There should absolutely, be at least one good scar.
You know what? There actually is one here, and that is where I had the trait, but it
Yes,
wasn't from the abuse.
exactly.
It was from them trying to save my life. But other than that, you don't. And people think when they see it, oh, you must have gotten shot there.
Right.
But actually, it's not. It's the complete out. No one believes me when I tell them that I took a bullet close range to the face. No one
Yeah.
believes me. It's like, are you serious?
Mm,
They want to know, well, where did it come out? Well, it actually did. It came out the side of my neck here, and it's a
right.
little bit tiny scar on my main, very close to my main artery.
And even though I don't want to give away too much, but and we'll kind of circle back, but
Yeah, yeah.
going through all of that and then to be able to meet my guy and travel the beaches of the world. And obviously you guys had to go through some growth stages too. It wasn't success from jump. But Edwin Haynes, who's been on the show, is world-renowned network marketer. And for him to be that confidant for you in that
Yeah.
process, um, I know him as a man, but what did it show you? Did it show you any difference between how men carry themselves when they love purely?
Oh my God. Let's just say this. There's a saying that says the one that got away.
Yeah.
I like to say the one that almost got away, because he has been genuine since the day that I met him.
Yes.
And we had a great friendship, and our friendship is what I think that allowed us to be able to navigate through this situation, because I don't think if I was in his shoes, I would have chosen someone like me, being honest.
Yeah.
And we hear that all the time, because we know in relationships, everybody comes with some sort of baggage.
Yes.
But to know that this type of baggage a person is coming with, and you have been there in that process, because he was there, when obviously when I was in the hospital, when they read the book, they'll figure out all of that.
Yes.
But he was there. So me coming here, or me accepting that you really serious about, you seriously want to marry me?
Right.
I'm like, are you sure you know what you're getting yourself into? Because even though it appeared that I was fine and I was okay, I knew that at some point there would be some residual effect to the things that I had gone through. And the fact that he understood that, and not only did he say it in word, he did it in deed, because he was very patient throughout my process, and things that, that would bother me or was triggers, they didn't trigger him. It was almost
Right.
if, okay, I expect a little bit of that. I know how to handle that. And he has done a phenomenal job with that. And I think I contribute a lot of that healing process that I had to go through with. I contribute a lot of it to his patience and his just unconditional love, because he saw the end of the story. I only knew where
Yes.
I was in the middle of the story, you know. And so
Yes.
with my faith, and God just continued to strengthen me to stay on the journey of my healing, and him having the patience to endure that process, I love him to life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, because he has been a genuine friend, not just a great husband, but he has
Yeah.
been a solid friend.
Yeah. He's one of the people that when I first met him all those years ago, he looked at me and he said, Chuck, this ain't gonna be easy, but you're gonna win. He said,
Yeah.
you're gonna win. He said, I already
Yeah.
know you ain't gonna listen because you just like I was, but you're gonna win. And his ability to be, and I don't want to stay on him too long, but his ability to be able to see, to be a visionary, to see
Yes.
what's gonna happen, right? I think is
Yeah.
uncanny. So I can only imagine what that patience looked like, what that love looked like in real time.
It was, I mean, it was genuine love. And if you have been a person who has not experienced that, it's kind of hard for you to process and digest. So you do a
Yeah.
lot of self-sabotaging in the beginning because you're trying to see, really, I'm trying to test the waters and see, well, how far can I go before he just runs off and he leaves?
Right.
And he didn't. It's like he got it. It's no, you got no argument here. I'm here because this is where I belong. You were the one for me. And I know that, and I'm going to stay committed to this process until you see it. And I mean, that was very helpful along my journey.
The more I read this book, the only question that kept coming up in my mind was why, when you finally got away, why did you keep answering the phone? It was like, I was like, Andrea, if you don't just change your number, like, what are you? Oh my God. I was mad at you for a minute. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, if she answers this phone one more time, I swear to God, I'm flying to Houston.
You
and
know
I'm gonna
what?
take it.
Well, I tell you what, that's a great question. And it's a question that I've never been asked before, other than in the moment of it happening. My friends and my family would ask me the same thing. Why do you continue to answer his call? Just ignore it. In my mind, I was answering it to be able to gauge his mindset. Where was he in the process of, of really following through with what he had been threatening?
Yeah.
Or, was it a way that I could, I guess, sweet talk him into changing his mind about things that he had been saying, the threats that he had been making, and give him a reason to live and give him a reason to just let go and be okay and know that he can make it without me. So I answered to be able to gauge that, because you got to keep in mind that I was living in fear every day of my life. Right. So to be able to hear and know what he's thinking, I felt like I could strategize and, and I knew how to move around based on his mindset that particular day, because now it was up and down. It wasn't always just, sporadic and toxic. Some days it would be, he would be humble. Some days he would be apologetic. So those days I appreciated, because I felt like I was in less danger. So talking to him made me understand, or be able to gauge in my mind, the level of danger I was in the following day.
You know what that reminds me of? You know how when your kids know they're in trouble and they come in and they try to talk to you about a TV show or something like that, or they try to talk to you about, this weekend, and they're trying to just gauge, is dad really still mad at me? Yes, I am. It reminded me of that. Is that kind of like the mindset of, like you said, you wanted to see how much danger you were in? It's kind of like that?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it was. But nobody understood it. They felt like not saying anything to him, pressing charges, following that process is what I should have done. And I tried to explain to them, which any survivor would tell you, is that you are not under police protection 24 hours a day. So me filing the charges and doing all that, in most cases, it causes situations to escalate. I didn't want it to escalate further. So I thought by me not doing that, that would allow me another day of living. Yeah. So that was my gamble.
I'm mad that you answered the question so perfectly, because now the question that I was going to ask you later on, I have to ask now. Okay. So often we hear these stories of the public fighting and arguments and the rage and the public scenes carrying on in domestic violence. But when he actually shot you, he was calm. When he came in, the tone was calm. And then you hear that clap, right? That shot in the moment. And you were still apologetic.
I think that it was, let me say this, and I really want the listeners to hear me out on this, because I know that part of anybody who has been in this situation, and when you go get counseling and therapy,
Right.
and you are, it kind of comes across as if you're taking up for the abuser, you're making excuses
Yes.
for him. But I want people to understand that this is someone that I loved. This is someone who once upon a time loved me. Love you don't turn off and on when you genuinely, truly love someone.
Yes.
And because there were some things that happened in the marriage, why it escalated that way. And let me just jump in a little bit of that, the infidelity.
Yes.
So I felt I was, to blame for his reactions or responding. His reaction to the situation was because of this situation. So had I not done that, then this wouldn't be happening. So the fact that it took him to that place, it made me feel like I was stronger mentally to be able to handle something like that, and he wasn't. So it just took him to a place of obviously no return, where most people would just probably just move on and marry somebody else, get divorced, or do whatever they do, or go do it back, or whatever they do, but not to the extent that he did. So it was very tough for me to have to live through the aftermath of that. The aftermath was the hardest for me than actually going through the abuse and the shooting.
When we confirmed this interview, I took a look at, I believe the website was Global Citizen, and they said that domestic violence rose 8% during COVID, and that 1 in 4 women have experienced domestic violence. What do you think men need to know as supporters, the brothers, the cousins, the friends, platonic friends, to be more vigilant about possible signs in the women that they care about?
I think that when you suspect that something is going on, initially everybody's first response is to run to the rescue of the victim, or, like, as I like to say, the survivor.
Yes.
I would love for men to go and have a chat with the abuser. I would love for them to go and be able to really, not in a hostile way, because your initial response is, no, let's just go take them out. Let's just go them the way that they're doing you, because this is a violation.
Absolutely.
I would really want someone to take the time to go and hear that person out, to find out what is really going on. Because we all know that it's not the situation at hand that got this person there. It's some other trauma from long ago that brought it to this point. And this was just the tipping point. This was just the icing on the cake, as my mom would say.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily about what I had done. And at the end of the day, for him, what I realized, it was that he had taken some losses before. Parents dying with him at a young age, not really having the family dynamics that he wanted in the relationships with his siblings that he desired. He felt like, we all know we're family, but nobody really has my back. And I meet this young lady who has my back, who has taken care of me when at the beginning of our marriage, he became very ill. I was there every step of the way with genuine love. And so that was something he hadn't experienced, and that now I have it. I don't want to let it go. Even though she did a bad thing, I still want this to work. But what I realized is I can't work with you or continue to go through this with being abused, because that's not what I'm accustomed to. So I think that if people around him really understood where he was mentally and emotionally, and if they had come to his rescue to find out and just check on him, perhaps things would have turned out differently.
I don't know if you remember this story, but we talked about it, and there was a time when Edwin was out here and we were going to do a presentation, I told you, and his phone rang a couple of times, and he, pushed the button because we were about to go in and present, do our thing. And then he answered the phone and his whole demeanor changed. He said they can't find Andrea's sister. And immediately I took the tie off. I put the white tee on. I'm like, Ed, we can go do whatever right now. This presentation no longer matters to me, right? Because that's how I feel about Edwin to this day. He is big brother. And I'll never forget, he said, nah, Chuck, I'm gonna make a couple of calls. We got this one. And to know that you have somebody that, I think we just did an episode on alpha men dripping with emotional intelligence, right? We just did this episode. Oh my God, with DB Bedford. And what does it feel like to know that you have a man that can do both? He can shut down the street from a different city, right?
Yes, he can.
But he also is he's an alpha leader. He's a provider. He is a mentor to so many. What have you learned in the process of your healing that you now use to help others on the scale that you do?
That was a loaded question, Chuck.
Yes, fair enough. I agree. What
Go ahead.
I'll say it like this. What is this relationship, this marriage taught you that now you could use to help other survivors?
This relationship has taught me a lot about me, because that's something that when you've gone through something that I've gone through, it's easy for you to blame the other person. And especially if the other person is not present to defend themselves, then it's really just your version of the story.
Yes.
So when I wrote the book, I deliberately made sure that I didn't paint a picture or a falsehood that would diminish the other person in its entirety, and make me seem like I was some type of victim, because I wasn't. Because I was a person who had made some horrible mistakes, and who was in a relationship, and somebody couldn't just handle the offense that had taken place. So I wanted to make sure that I focused on my own well-being, my own mental clarity, my own healing, and for lack of better words, my own demons.
Yes.
So to have someone who comes in your life and who understands that this is what I'm up against with this person, because they've already made known, they already know the whole situation, the full story of what has happened and what happened in the past. And just as easy as it happened in the past, it's a possibility it could happen now or in the future. So you're taking a chance on a person who is not, really emotionally or, stable at this point to be able to handle a mature and a whole another person, because you may have your baggage, but your bags are not as heavy as my bags are. Right. So to be able to have someone to walk through that with you made me want to become a better person. It made me want to dig deep and figure out, well, where did all of this start? Where did I get the behaviors? Where did I get the mindset to make the decisions that I made? I began to work on me. And I think that is the key. Start within first. Yeah. Because that's really where it starts at in the first place. Even though we blame external forces, it really starts on the inside of us.
I like blaming external forces every once in a while. It makes you feel good for a minute at least.
Yeah, just a minute, until you keep repeating the same cycle, and then you realize, oh, I'm the common denominator. Oh, the problem is me.
The problem is me. What is it as a mom? What was it like to share the story with your daughters?
Oh my God, I think I spent most of their childhood just praying that they did not have to experience this, because obviously I know what statistics say.
Yes.
And so I did a lot of praying and fighting against that. And when they got old enough to really understand about relationships and started dating, I made sure that I had instilled enough in them to know their own self-worth.
Yes.
And then I began to explain that everybody doesn't have the same childhood growing up. Everybody doesn't have someone to instill positivity into them. So when you find people like that, you have a choice to make. You have a choice to be able to, is that something that you want to tolerate and you can't endure? Because, as women, we want to save the world. I mean, we have a caring nature. So when we see an issue, we want to solve the problem. We think we can fix them,
Right.
And we can't. That's a personal journey. And so I made sure that they understood in relationships what's a healthy relationship versus a non-healthy relationship. Yeah. And I think that they got the grasp of that. And I'm grateful for that, I believe those prayers were answered concerning that.
I mentioned earlier that you are the queen of not looking like what you've been through. How long did it take for you to look in the mirror? Or maybe it still happens. You look in the mirror and you just kind of freeze up. Does that still happen?
When the incident happened, I didn't look in the mirror for a long time. I actually accidentally walked past the mirror and like, oh my God, because I thought that I didn't look the same. I
Yeah.
thought that, I was disfigured and no one wanted to tell me. And so I was afraid to look in the mirror. So once I got over that and started looking and realized, okay, physically, I look okay.
Yes.
Although mentally and emotionally, I am not, but physically I look okay. So the fact that I looked okay physically helped me to cover up, the unstableness of me emotionally and mentally. So as I got on my healing journey, and it was definitely somewhat of a lengthy process.
Sure.
And I began to look in the mirror, and even with this scar, I'll tell you a brief story about that, because as I started, you start feeling yourself. You're like, okay, God, okay, I'm getting back to myself. Oh, you done.
Yes.
I'm gonna, I'm ready to tell my testimony all across the world. I'm ready to do this thing for you. And I said, you know what? You start wanting to, change things. So
Right.
I began to like, okay, this scar, because the doctor told me that they can, smooth that out and make that, it'd be just like a thin little scratch that no one would notice.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to go get some plastic surgery and have that removed.
Right.
Just as clear as I'm talking to you on this interview.
Yes.
I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, do not remove that scar. I left it there to remind you of what I did for you on that day, and that you'll never forget to share me with the world.
Wow.
And he said, oh, okay. Never thought about it again after that. Wow. And it does serve me as a reminder, because there have been moments, a lot of moments, I had forgotten that what I went through, because I'm on the other side now. Yes. So when I do look in the mirror and I see that now, I'm conscious of it. So when I look in the mirror and I see it, I'm always grateful. And I always say every morning that I get up, no matter what the day is, at the end of that day, thank you, Lord, for my life. Even if it wasn't a perfect day, because I realized that I could have missed out on so much had the enemy had his way that day. I would not have been able to see my kids grow up. I would not have been able to see them graduate high school, graduate college, get engaged, get married, have grandkids. Now I have a granddaughter. So I would have missed all of those moments. So I am forever grateful, and I'm grateful for the scar that is left that reminds me of what happened and what God allowed me to survive.
Wow. This is just, we could do this for so long. We are almost close to wrapping up, but several more questions, because I want to know everything. Changing the subject just a little bit, the business of writing a book. You mentioned that, well, I want to know what the process was like, because, tons of entrepreneurs, hundreds of entrepreneurs even want to write a book, but they stop short by judging their own writing styles and skills. And you mentioned that you had an accountability partner, somewhat of a coach, I believe. At your level, was it hard to ask for that kind of help or guidance?
Not for me, because I am very self-aware of, so to speak. So I know my lane, I know my strengths. Yes. And I really, hone in and own my strengths. And the areas that I'm not good at, I don't focus really at all on those areas. I feel like God has placed people around me that are strong in those areas. Yes. And that is their job. And I want them to be able to do their job and live in life. So I knew immediately that this wasn't a task for me to do alone. And initially I thought that I needed a ghostwriter, because like I said, I'm not a writer. Right. I can speak. I am, I love teaching. Yes. That's a gift that he's given me. And obviously prayer is a gift that he's given me. So I kind of stay in those, any of those lanes I can do, I'm good in. Anything outside of that, I need help. Right. So I knew that if he had given me this task to write the book, then obviously I had what I needed around me, or those around me knew what I needed, and then be able to help me to connect. So initially I set the consultation up for a ghostwriter.
Okay.
And throughout that consultation process, she said, oh, no, I don't think that you need a ghostwriter. I think you just need someone to edit and help you process your thoughts and ask the right questions so that you can write the story the way that you want it told. Yes. And I said, okay. I said, well, I don't know about that, but let's try it. So she said, okay. She said, well, send me over what you have. I said, well, what I have, I'm not really, pleased with it. I say It's really all over the place. And she assured me that didn't matter. She said, I know how to, read through that and know where things go. I said, well, okay, I'll send it. Well, I didn't send her initially what I had. I went back, reread it, kind of put it in a little bit of order for her to follow. And she said, oh my God, this is good. Yeah. We're going to work with this. And so as we begin to work with those few pieces that we had, and by the end, that was it. And she said, I told you, you didn't need a ghostwriter. Wow. So I think that anybody who's looking to write a book, if you got to know what it is you want starting out. Don't just go write a book because someone told you to write a book. Know why you're writing the book and what message you want to send. As long as you can get clear on those to start with, whoever is assisting you can help you stay committed to what it is that you said your goal was in the first place. So you don't, because you're getting writing, you can get all off track. Because really, when I finish, I have like 3 other books that came from things that came up in this book. And I'm like, I'm writing another book. I knew this would be the only one, but other things come up. Now, had I not had a good editor that said, okay, we're going to keep this here, that is something you can use for a later date. You can use it as a course or whatever. So you need that person to be able to help you stay focused on the main thing, and everything that's extra, that's gravy, is for another time.
I love it. I love it. Did you guys decide to self-publish, or did you go with a publishing house?
I did. I self-published because Ed had written a book before. So we already had a publishing company.
Permission to Succeed.
Yes, he did. And so I kind of knew the steps to taking to do it. And really, there are a lot of individual great editors and publishing companies that are, that work well with self-publishing. But because I knew all the steps that I needed to take, I just took the steps that I needed to take because of him going through his process. So the editing, having the editor to go through that writing process was the biggest or the most challenging, I think, for me. Everything else was just pretty much easy after that, editing, formatting, and then you own the printing. But from what I hear, Amazon does an excellent job at that. I didn't use them. I just did mine and sourced mine out to people who I knew could do excellent work, because I'm somewhat of still a perfectionist.
I will have to say, and I think I called you when I got the advanced copy.
Yes.
But this is not my normal genre of books. I'm typically all things, if it's not sports or biography related, which this kind of is. But when I started reading this book, I looked up and I was like, I'm halfway done with this thing. And for it to capture, of course I'm biased. Of course I know, kind of some backstory, all that good stuff. But there was so much in here that I just did not know. I just want you to know that because you were obedient, this book is going to help so many people because it's powerful, engaging, and you can see it. I like books that I can see the story, and you can see this story.
Absolutely. That means the world to me, because and I'm glad that you shared those comments, because that was my goal with writing it, because I'm a visual person.
Yes.
So when I am reading, I am actually visualizing. And if I can't paint the vision in my mind, if I'm reading something, then it's very difficult. It takes me a long time to get through it, because now I have to go back and ask questions that I have to answer myself and come up with my own conclusions about it in order to move forward. So thank you for that. Then mission accomplished.
Absolutely. You know what? So turning the page just a little bit, like in network marketing, you meet a bunch of temporary friends. Like everybody's friends when it's new, when you're launching, all that stuff. You hit a couple of milestones.
Temporary, Chuck.
Oh my God. Well, listen, when you hit a couple of mile markers, a couple of, you rank up, you get a whole new group of friends, right?
True.
I knew the money was good. I told everyone, we joked, I said I was real good, but I was local. You know,
Okay.
I didn't get hit all my steps, but I knew that you guys were different. I don't know if you remember the story when my wife was in the hospital. She had some issues when she was giving birth. You guys stopped your entire schedule of going around the state to come to the hospital, pray
Yeah.
for my wife, and now reading this book. Do you how how do you even pour into somebody else when you're fresh out of wired shut, literally?
Yeah. I just think it's just God's grace. I think when you're purposed to do something, God gives you everything that you need to do it.
Yeah.
Most people with the things that I do on a day-to-day basis will probably tire most people out, but yet it fuels me because it was what I was created to do. And just the title alone, once they read the book, they'll realize what the significance of the title. But
Yes.
um I'm no longer wired shut. I have a voice, I have purpose, and God has proven that. And I want to make good on my part. He allowed me to be here and to continue to be here in existence for a reason. And I want to take every moment that He gives me and be able to give that back. And the way we give that back and appreciate Him for what He's done for us, we go and be there for other people when it's in their time of need. And it's not an issue. It's a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Wow. We are eternally grateful for that, because again, you have one of those voices that has the two-way direct connect. So when you pray, I know He's listening. Do you feel that as a survivor that it's more of an obligation to pour into other people, or do you feel like it's just an extension of the superpowers? They can say, she survived it, and if she's giving me this game, this information, this help, I know I can too. Which do you think it is?
I think it's just an extension of that. I don't feel obligated. I don't feel like, okay, because God saved my life, then I owe Him this back in return. Although I do reference Him in that manner, and that I
Yes.
will do this to the day that I leave here. But I don't feel like it's something that I gotta do because He did this. It was already purposed in me, really,
Yeah.
before I was even in the world, to do what I'm doing now. It just, all those things that happened just got me to realize it and to tap in that, girl, this is your purpose. Not what you was thinking about, doing, being a physical therapist. That wasn't it. This is what you were supposed to be doing. So every day it's a beautiful thing when I can do that. When I'm not doing that, then it's like, okay, well, what's going on today?
Wow. Wow. I love that you're able to be so multidimensional, right? You're able to be present in the moment. You're able to flash back and understand what people are going through. And then you're able to see where the good in them in terms of where they can be.
Right.
Is that something that you work on, like personal growth style, or how do you continue to feed yourself when you consistently give to so many other people?
If I told you that, okay, yeah, I take a break every now and then, I'm going to go away and have a spa day, that would be a total lie. The only way that I'm able to do what it is that I do and to be able to see all of those things in the past is really through my faith, my relationship with the Lord, because the discernment that He gives me allows me the ability to be able to do that. It's a gift. It's a gift that He gave me, because when it's time for me to take a rest, if I have endured and taken on too much at a time, He just stops the calls. He just gives me a break, and I don't have
Wow.
to worry about it. He just stops it. And then when it's time again, there the calls, they started flooding back in again. So I'm sensitive just to being led by Him as to what I'm
Yes.
supposed to do, and understanding that I'm just a vessel. I just said, yes, Lord, I'm willing to do whatever you ask me to do without any reservations. And I put the heavy lifting on Him, because the truth of the matter is, I can share my story. I can give you the tools and the steps that I use to get out of that.
Yeah.
But everybody's story is unique and it's different. So I'm just inspiration. He's the only one who can come in and give true manifestation of transformation and victory. So I give him that honor and glory when I'm talking with the people that I'm talking to, and they can see, and I help them understand that it's not by my power. I'm just a person who came to be obedient and share with you whatever he tells me to say or do. And then ultimately it's up to him to make sure to make good on that and get them to the finish line. I just walk the journey. Just hold your hand there.
Wow. Wow. We're close to running out, but I got a few more questions for you if you will indulge me.
Yes.
In the moment, give me 2 words to describe your abuser while you're going through it, and 2 words to describe him as a survivor.
Oh, as he's going through it, what am I thinking?
Yes.
You said 2 words.
2 words, if possible. It can be 2 sentences.
No, it's not that long. Actually, it's just 1 word. Okay. Monster. Mm. You know, this is not, you know, who I married.
Right.
And, you know, that was kind of my words to him, like, you are a complete monster. I don't know who you are. Right. I didn't. Literally, he wasn't the person that I married. He was not the same. It was clear that he was not the same person. He didn't even look the same. Right. So that's what it was. After everything on the other side, and after I survived, obviously, before really getting on that path of healing, and in therapy, I felt very, very guilty, and I felt ashamed.
Wow.
The guilt almost took me out because it was so heavy, because I felt like it was my fault. I could have done something different, because now I'm back to seeing the person that I married, and I didn't understand the level of pain he was in, because I was so focused on me that I didn't even take the time to understand that my actions caused you to feel this type of a way. No, I'm not responsible for how he handled the situation, but I do have to accept ownership that I played a part in how things escalated. Now, he made his own decisions of how he was going to handle it, but I had so much guilt at that point, and so then it turned into, now, Lord, I need you to forgive me, for the things that I did to contribute to getting to this place. But it made me realize that once upon a time, you were a beautiful soul. Once upon a time, you loved me, and there was nothing that you wouldn't do for me, and that you didn't do for me. So it allowed me to go back and see why it escalated the way that it did, and that what I was seeing in the moment as you're just trying to hurt me was really a person who had been abandoned, who had been rejected, and had felt like they had found somebody to fill that void. And now the very person that they thought was their rescuer, their savior, and at that time, it has now turned on them and doing the
that
same
person
thing.
Hurt them too.
Everybody else that they love and care for is gone.
Yeah.
So I could see that after the fact.
Right. I had a conversation with a relationship expert. I can't remember, the name escapes me, but we talked about telling the truth in relationships. And we always see on social media, if I can't tell the truth, I don't want it. If we can't be truthful at all times. And the one thing that I remember saying to him while we were having that discussion, I said, the truth is always great for the person that gets to say it.
Yes.
But you never know what it does to the person that has to hear it.
Oh my God. You better talk about that.
And I think that I am all for, transparency, right? I love it. I get it. But I now understand, the older that I am now, I understand how fragile men are, because we don't typically have that outlet. And I am in no way justifying an abuser or anything like that. But I just want women to understand that men have a different, we can compartmentalize, we can keep going, we can push through, we can focus on work, we can turn it on, turn it off. But that one safe space, when that the switch flips, that's a tongue twister. When that switch flips, it literally can change everything about you. It can change your whole DNA.
Absolutely. And I mean, and honestly, that same thing can apply to women.
Yes, very much so.
Everybody can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
Although you want to be truthful and the truth does set you free, but you have to use wisdom when you're giving the truth.
Yes.
You have to make sure. I heard a minister say this, a long time ago, that, when you are sharing different parts of your life, and even in terms of a testimony, you have to make sure that you are using wisdom in that according to who you're testifying to. Everybody can't handle all of you, which is why we don't give everybody all of us.
Yes, very much.
And my grandmother used to say it like this, in terms of going back to what you said initially about men and being able to process something like that. My grandmother used to say, a man can dish it out, but he can't take it.
Yeah.
And I found that to be very, very true in a lot of situations. Absolutely. So you trying to be honest about something that you've done and how you feel about something does not always work. Right. So it's like you just got to figure out and be able to use wisdom and discern, how do I navigate out of this situation? And that's what the beautiful thing that has come out of all of this chaos is that I've learned that you've got to have an exit strategy. You can't just leave. And most people won't tell you that, because everybody's initial response when you tell them someone is going through domestic violence, what do you hear them say?
Yeah,
leave.
You should leave.
Get out, go. You cannot just leave. That jeopardizes your safety and everybody that you love safety. Every place that you're going. I'm sure you've seen it on the news in different places. Husbands going to the shop, they going where they are in the grocery store, going where they are at the salons, or wherever they are. You have to have an exit strategy. You have to have a plan in place that minimizes that. Am I 1,000% certain that nothing would happen if you follow these strategies? I'm not 100% certain, but what I am certain of, if you just up and leave, you are at a higher risk of being, assaulted or even killed than you are if you plan properly and have that exit strategy. And that's what, that's really what I coach and teach. Now, we don't take a long time exiting.
Right.
But we have an exit strategy. We're not just, all these threats have gone on and I'm just going to tell you, okay, just tell him you're leaving. No, that's not how that works.
Yeah. At any point in time, did you consider self-defense classes? Like, because I know they say, file a police report and all that. And I'm a fan of checking the box, right? I'll do it because I know to protect myself legally, I got to do it.
Right.
But I'm on some other stuff when it comes to safety. And so did you consider, like, when you're in the middle of this and you're, I don't want to paint the picture for you, but like when you're, post-abuse in the instance and you're crying, you're wiping, fixing your face, and you're doing all that. Is it, I need self-defense? Is it, I need to not do that again so I don't get hit? What does that moment feel like?
You are so, full of fear. The only thing that you want to be able to do is to prevent that from happening again. So taking self-defense, defending yourself is not at the top of the list. Actually appeasing the abuser is at the top of the list. Let me do whatever he needs me to do so that I don't have to get hit again. Let me obey. Let me follow whatever he's asking me to do. And maybe he won't do this again. And maybe we can work this out, with words instead of with our fists.
Is the first hit worse than any other hit, or vice versa? Is there any hit worse than the first one?
No. I think when you get that first hit, you are initially shocked. You cannot believe that it happened. You're in denial. And then everything else after that just kind of escalates, but you're basically numb, because that one hit that's really the final straw in diminishing who you are. Because you got to understand, it didn't start with the hit. It started with your words. So your words have already torn me down, that I don't even have fight in me to fight you back physically.
Right.
As you've already talked to me so terribly and said everything that I wasn't. So my self-esteem is in the tank.
Yeah.
So this, what you're doing physically, is just almost like it's the last straw. It's just like, okay, well, what else is next?
Wow.
You don't have any fight left in you. And you, all the while, you're struggling on the inside and you're covering up when you go on the outside.
I cannot imagine what that feels like, what it does to you psychologically. I just
Like I describe it to most people as walking dead. You're dead, but you're just walking. You're just living out every day. I'll get up, I keep the kids ready, drop them off at school, go to work, come back home. Hope today is a good day. Hope today is not a day we got to rehash anything and that'll, to escalate a fight, to start a fight. Hopefully that we can be peaceful and make it another day.
Wow. This is one of the, I've reviewed a lot of books. I have been sent a lot of material. And again, for all my visionaries out there, yes, I am very partial. Let's get that out the way. Andrea is one of my favorite people on this earth. But you guys also know I'm not a fan of just supporting for the sake of support. I support great stuff.
We all know that about Chuck.
Yeah. I'm not just because we peoples don't. I'm not signing my name on that. This is a book I think every man with a daughter should read. And I think that it's a book that every woman should read. It's just too powerful. Like, I think we've given away a lot and that we haven't even touched the surface of how good the storyline is in this book. And for it to all be true is absolutely crazy. So I got a rapid fire round for you. Okay. And then we'll wrap up. We did 2 words to describe the ex. Give me 2 words to describe the present.
The present as in?
The present husband.
The present husband. Oh my God.
He's going to see this.
You said what?
I said, he's going to see this. I'm going to see this part. That's my boy. I got to make sure,
No, he is absolutely amazing. He is an amazing individual. And I think that is what I think anybody who knows him would say, not just me. And what I have often reminded him of throughout our marriage is that what I love about us is that we are still able to be friends. Yeah. We are still friends. He's still my best friend. And when I say that, I don't say it, lightly. I really mean that because he is one of the few people that I have ever met that can truly, honestly handle the truth and process the truth. Yeah. So and that's what I love about him, that regardless of our husband and wife relationship, which is good, his, father relationships with the daughters are good, but that friendship that he has, I think anybody that knows him would agree with me in that. And I think that is his superpower, to be able to be that, because most people don't know how to be a friend. And especially when you talk about in marriages and relationships, we just look at, our spouse as our spouse. We got a girlfriend.
That routine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But absolutely. The same thing that the conversations I can have with my girlfriend, I can have with him.
I love it. I'm trying to imagine Edward talking about hairstyles now.
Oh, he's quick to be like, well, okay, this will be his answer to it. Well, do you like it straight or do you like it curly?
Yeah.
Well, I think I like it curly, but then sometimes I like it straight. Well, can you do both?
Right.
And then I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I could. Well, then do both. He processes it very quickly.
I will say this, he'll help you get to a resolution quick.
Oh yeah, he wastes no time. He is not that one to tarry and linger like I do with situation thing, because it's a gift for me. Yeah. No, you want to know the issue. And once you give him the issue, he got 5 minutes that we're going to talk about, we're going to solve it. If you want to keep rehashing and going on and don't want the solution, he is out. He has checked out.
He's checked out. What does the word vision mean for Andrea Haynes?
Oh, vision. What does it mean? Vision. Vision to me means me walking in perfect peace in my purpose. period. It's what God has created me to be and to do.
Yeah.
That's it. I want to make sure that I do all of that before I leave here.
How do you define fortune?
How do I define fortune? If I had to use one word, I would say intangible. Fortune, something that is not tangible, is the intangible things. It's the peace that you have, it's the joy that you get, it's the relationships that you have that are priceless. It's things that money can't buy.
Yeah, I love it. Leadership.
Leadership, being a person of integrity, having great character, being a person of your word. That's really, really big for me. And to me, that is leadership. Doing what it is you said you were going to do. Not being perfect, but just being a person of your word.
And the last word is process. What does that word mean to you?
A word that I don't like, but that I have to do often, that we go through often. It's like when you say that to people, it's like immediately you can feel the shift. Process. Process is obviously something that we all have to go through. It's not anything that you can avoid, but if you have a positive attitude about it, it can be a beautiful thing.
I think that's the first time you've gritted your teeth in this whole interview. It's just like process.
I do not, because I know I don't like it, because who does though? Like, okay, when you tell people, okay, it's a little bit of a process, because when you think process, you think long and drawn out.
Yeah, work.
But yes, and work. But process literally is just you acknowledging the challenge and being willing to work on it. And that determines how quick or slow you're going to get through it. If you're going to pout about it, you're going to complain about it, it's going to take you a long time to get where you're trying to go. But if you embrace it, okay, we probably can get through this in the next 24 hours.
I love it. It seems that you have always been aware and as obedient as the moment would allow you to be to the voice of God in your head. And some would look at life, at the life you came from and the life that you're able to enjoy now, and say the reward is for the obedience. Others will say, but Andrea is stronger than me. Andrea had a different support system. Andrea has, she's in this rarefied air in terms of her circle of friends. For anyone who's listening that might be dealing with something now, or people that are going to watch this in the future, what do you want to say to that woman?
What I want to say to you is that you're not alone, and you're no different than I am. The only difference between me and you at this point is that you haven't made the decision to love you and to know, and may not have the courage to say that I can bounce back from this. I can get up again. And it's okay that if you can't. You got me now. You can reach me at whatever Chuck is going to put up there. I am Andrea Haynes.
That's the last question. We was going to do that part.
Let me go ahead and just say, because I realized along this journey with most of the people that I talk to, they don't have a support system, or if they do, they're not comfortable with sharing those intimate details with the people that are closest to them and that they love. And I get it, because you don't know how they're going to respond to what you have to say.
Right.
And so you're still trying to, and if you're still in the marriage, you're still trying to protect the covenant that's there, even though it's a little bit flawed or broken. I get it. I'm not one I'm not ready to just cancel a marriage because there is a situation of domestic violence in it. I want to assess the situation, because there is a such thing as a one-time situation.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of once an abuser, always abuser, because that's not true. Yeah. Sometimes you can find yourself in the heat of a moment and something happens that you regret and you know you will never, ever do again. Sometimes in the heat of a moment, other things are involved and are, contribute to that moment, alcohol, drugs. So I like to assess the entire situation, but my goal is to keep the family together. And the other part of it is, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to tell you what you should do. That's a decision that you would make. And I'm not here to bash the other person. I have just as much compassion for the survivor and the victim as I do for the abuser. Wow. So I want you to know that help is available. And you just have to find the right person that you feel comfortable enough with to trust them with basically your secrets,
Yeah.
the intimate part of you.
I'm so glad that you are extending yourself through this book as a resource, because the other part to not having anyone to talk to is when you're in a marriage or a long-term relationship, you guys all know the same people, right?
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
who do you go to have an honest, open, impartial view, right? When they know both people. And so I'm so glad. Now, let everybody know where they can find you online and when the book drops, Wired Shut.
The book will be released on August 24th, a couple of weeks from now, I think.
Yes.
On that Tuesday, but pre-orders are available now, and they can reach me at www.IamAndreaHaynes.com. And you can find all about what I'm doing, what I got, what I'm, where I'm going to be, and all of that kind of stuff. And you will have a place where you can, contact me if you do need counseling, if you do need someone to talk to, because I know that this is a very delicate situation. Yeah. And I'm going to just use myself as an example when I say what I'm going to say, is that if you are a person like me, who everybody looks up to and who doesn't expect to be going through this, and you got, you're at the top of, your career ladder. Yes. And your life is looking good from the outside. I get that. You're very, very cautious when you're going to talk to someone about this, because most therapists and counselors that you go to, in most cases, are really bound by law to really report, if you go in and say that, something is happening to that degree.
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit different in that, because it's your choice. But now, unless you're in a situation where I see, well, okay, you might die when you leave here or something, then I might need to say, okay, this is not going to be a good idea. So let me give you some options as to what I'm comfortable with doing, and see if we can make an agreement to make sure that you're safe, and especially if kids are involved. But that is in the part of the assessment, the exit strategy. All of those things matter. But at the end of the day, if I may just speak and say something that I would have wanted to say that we didn't talk about, much in the interview, is that I would love to help abusers. If you are someone, whether it be male or female, because now we do have female abusers. I've counseled some of them as well.
Absolutely.
If you have found yourself on the other end of that side of the person that I'm talking about, and something has shifted you to become a person that that is not who you really truly are or desire to be,
yes,
I'm open to helping you process that trauma that you've experienced that got you to this place to think that you need to control someone or to abuse someone to make them stay with you or just obey you.
Right.
So, I'm here for both sides.
I love it. Such a beautiful, warm soul. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been rocking with the great one, survivor, life strategist, and author Andrea Haynes, and yours truly, Chuck Hawkins, here at the Hawk Vision Podcast, discussing her new book, Wired Shut, August 24th. You don't want to miss that book. I hope this interview was informative. I hope we added a smile to your day, but most importantly, we have helped you shorten your learning curve on your journey to success. Buy your boy a coffee. The link will be in the show notes. Like, share, subscribe across all of your platforms. Send in your messages and your guest suggestions. If we can make it work, we will. I cannot continue to grow this show without you guys, my visionaries. So appreciative that you've given us some time today. You know, the saying goes, there's absolutely no miracle that will ever happen without someone doing something. We'll either see you at the top or from the top. The choice is yours. Ms. Haynes, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.